into me.
And a hard hook. Fulmer goes down. He's hurt. 2, 3. Fulmer's down. 4, 5, 6. I don't know whether he can get up. 7, 8. He's trying. 9. It's over.
Robinson was over in the other corner jumping up and down. I told my manager, how come Robinson's doing exercise between rounds? And he said, he's not doing exercise between rounds. He just won. He said they counted 10. That was the first time in my life that I'd ever been knocked out. And the last time.
At the age of 37, he was on top of the world, middleweight champion, once again.
The animosity started in 1952. Sugar Ray pulls up his entourage, and I said to my wife, wait, I want to go up and shake hands with him and meet him and introduce myself. I said, I'm Carmen Basilio. I just fought Billy Graham last week. He gave me a brush off. I was embarrassed. I felt about this big. I said, I'm going to fight that son of a bitch one of these days and kick his ass. Well, it didn't happen until 1957, but I got at him.
Sugar, what do you think will prove to be Carmen's weaknesses in this fight?
Well, I'll tell you. Say, Carmen, would you mind telling me what's your weakness?
When we first started to negotiate for the first fight, he wanted 50% of the gate. He wanted me to take 10%. I said, no way. Finally, Robinson got 40%, and he gave me the 20%. He got twice as much.
Well, at this time, we're talking about the advent of theater television, closed-circuit television, and naturally this was a great new source of income. And, Ray wanted a big chunk of that money, and as a result, there were always negotiation problems.
One thing about this guy, he had guts. On the 11th round, which was considered the round of the year, I hit him with, they say, 34 straight punches. I had him up against the ropes. And he come back that next round and kicked the hell out of me.
Although it was close, it was a split decision.
The winner and new middleweight champion of the world, Carmen Basilio.
He felt he defeated Basilio, and there were many people who agreed with him. So, of course, a rematch was in order to settle the issue, and that was scheduled for March 1958.
He hit me in the eyebrow in the 6th round. My eyelid blew up and closed. It looked like a great big plum. About the 14th round, one of my managers says, we think we're going to stop the fight, because I couldn't see. I said, if you stop this fight, you better be out of town before I get out of this ring. I said, you're not stopping this fight.
Robinson outpointed Basilio. Again, a very close split decision.
Any possibility that you may fight Carmen Basilio again?
Well, it's hard to say at this point. There's a tax situation that has to be considered, and I have to follow the advice of my accountants and my consultants.
Around the time of the fights with Carmen Basilio, the IRS was putting tremendous pressure on Ray. In fact, the first fight, they took his whole purse, which was about $500,000.
Robinson in white, Pender in black, and they collapse out on the apron.
By 1960, Robinson's marvelous skills had eroded terribly. He was nowhere near the fighter he used to be, but he was still a good fighter compared to everybody else. He also had a lot of problems financially, had a lot of problems emotionally. He'd met a woman in California, Millie, who would eventually become his wife. His marriage with Edna May was breaking up. He was going through a lot of turmoil.
When Dad and Mom got divorced, she came to me and she said, I want you to know that I love your dad, but I really don't want to take any more beatings, and I'm tired of his messing around.
Yeah, I missed him so much, and I said I'll regret it. I shouldn't have left him, but I did, and I never went back to him.
Robinson was still a great attraction. He was offered a fight against middleweight champion Gene Fulmer in December of 1960.
They were scheduled to go on at 10 o'clock, and at 10 minutes to 10, somebody came in and said that Ray was still in the street clothes and he wasn't going to fight. I ran into the dressing room and I said, "What's the matter, Ray? What's happened?" He said, "I'm not getting paid the right amount of money." And I said, "What do you mean you're not getting paid? You signed for $50,000. And Ray says, "Yeah, but for television to be shown in the United States only, and I hear it's being shown in England, and I want another $10,000. Otherwise, I don't go in the ring." And I think we argued for 5 minutes and lost the case. And Ray got into his boxing togs and walked out and fought a draw with Gene Fullman.
It's entirely conceivable that Robinson could have won that decision and won the middleweight title for a 6th time. In the rematch, Robinson was now going on 41 years old.
The last fight I had with him, the day of the fight, he wasn't going to fight because the ring was too small, he thought. So the fellow that was promoting the fight decided that he would go down to the hardware store the next morning and get a tape measure and have him cut 1.5 feet out of the tape measure so that the ring would look longer than what it actually was. And Robinson seen the tape measure, so he said, "Okay, let's go." It didn't even necessarily be bigger. He just had to be bigger in his mind.
It was a man who just couldn't accept the fact that his physical skills had eroded. Robinson just couldn't do it.
Still the champion, Gene Fullman.
Many people ask me, why do I keep fighting? Is it because I need the money? Yes, I need the money, but that isn't my main goal. I believe that I will emerge victoriously in another championship fight and retire as the middleweight champion of the world.
Ray continued to box for the money, for small purses, maybe under $1,000, fighting in a bull ring in Tijuana. This was almost a cliche of the washed-up fighter. Finally, in November of 1965, he fought Joey Archer, #1 middleweight contender. It was Robinson's last chance. If he could get by Joey Archer, he actually would have been considered for another title shot.
Robinson got knocked down by Joey Archer, and Joey Archer couldn't break a potato chip with a punch. And I found myself sitting next to Miles Davis. And I remember Miles standing up, and there were tears welling in his face to have seen this, because I think he believed that Robinson was going to get knocked out. Robinson didn't get knocked out and went the 10 rounds and lost the decision. And Robinson was lying on a table, and Miles leaned over and said, in that hoarse croak of a voice that Miles had, he said, "Ray, you're packing it in." And Robinson nodded. He says, "You're right." And that was the end of it.
Madison Square Garden decided that he really deserved a proper send-off. Ray donned his terry cloth robe one last time, got up in the ring, and said his farewells and left to a standing ovation.
And then he and Millie went home to their new apartment, and when he walked into the apartment, he had this huge, big, world's greatest fighter trophy with him. And all that was in the apartment was a card table in the living room and an old wooden bed in the bedroom. That was all the furniture he had. And here was this magnificent trophy and really no place to put it.
Probably one of the saddest things about Ray Robinson's life was that for a man who was very business conscious, drive such a hard deal, tried to establish businesses that would make him comfortable in his retirement, it didn't work out that way at all.
The business things for him were like toys. He didn't want to be really involved to do any of the work or anything like that. That wasn't his thing. My uncle trusted a lot of people where they were supposed to be paying taxes. They were stealing money. I caught a bartender stealing, so I fired him. And of course, he hired him back. He sold the barber shop, and then he sold the bar, and we were all sad because the bar